Skardal. I'm a quilter, designer, and educator. Today I'm going to talk to you about color theory. So when I first started quilting, I sewed with a lot of two-color quilts because I didn't really know what to do with color. After quilting for a couple years, I started to add rainbow gradients to quilts because that was the easy way to start bringing color into my quilts. But then, around that time, I started studying color theory. And that really influenced what colors I started to use in my quilts. So today I'm going to share that journey with you and introduce you to color theory. So let's start with the color wheel shown here. So when we learn about color theory, a lot of us think of the color wheel right away. Little kids sometimes learn of the color wheel in around kindergarten or first grade, and that's something we might remember. So in this color wheel, we see the hues arranged in a circle. We see how each color might look with black or white added to it. And on this side, we see what it might look like if you add red, yellow, or blue. And if we turn it over, on this side, we're shown some color harmonies. So color theory, from a high level, is a body of guidelines on how to work with color. So in this case, this color wheel shows us complementary colors, which are colors opposite each other on the color wheel. This color wheel also shows triadic color harmonies, which are three colors making a triangle in our color wheel. So color theory has been studied for a long time by artists, poets, fiber artists like us, and even physicists and psychologists. And it's really interesting, more recent color theory has been associated with how colors interact with each other. So there's a lot to think about when you look at the color wheel. You see all these different harmonies that are introduced to you, which are guidelines to help you combine color. And you also see all these different options and what the colors might look like when you add black and white to it. So the color wheel is a great starting point. But what happens when we apply it to fabric? So I've got this stack of fabrics. And I'm going to start building a color wheel with this stack of fabrics that I have on hand. So I'm going to start with these pinks and reds here. I know my blues are somewhere over here. Here's an orangey color, a more yellow. I'm not sure what to do with this gray quite yet. And I've got purple here. Brown kind of fits in with the red, but I'm going to set that aside right now. The same with this white. There's a navy. There's another purple. I've got a bunch of different aquas here. Here's another blue, greens. So with these fabrics that I've pulled together, there's a couple things that you might notice. First is that there's not an even distribution of the colors around your color wheel. So what I tend to see is a lot of fabric lines have a lot of aquas and reds, and those sort of sit complementary to each other opposite on the color wheel. Another limitation with this is that color theory doesn't always tell you how to interact with lightness or darkness, which is the value of the color, and saturation. So this color right here is a pretty bright, high saturation color, and it might pair with something opposite on the color wheel for complementary. But we could think about, will it look nice with another high saturation color, or would it go with a lower saturation aqua here? Another limitation that we have is prints. So prints often have a lot of colors in them, and it's hard to figure out what color theory might apply to them. A lot of times prints will come with recommended solids that can go with them, and that's a great starting point to work with. Finally, we have our whites and grays and blacks. And color theory doesn't really give you a lot of guidance on how to fit white and black or combine them. I tend to think white goes with anything that's darker or high saturation. So let's apply some of our color theory here and see what we can come up with. In this color wheel here that we've laid out with our fabric, we can pull these two, this purple and yellow, and make a complementary. And I've done that here in this purple and yellow Ohio star block. Another complementary pairing here is this orangey and blue color. And that's what I did in this second Ohio star. But notice that I added white in here. And on top of that, these complementary colors, orange and blue, really make each other pop. Let's go back to our color wheel and take a look. Now this color wheel doesn't show the analogous color scheme, but that means when colors are close to each other on the color wheel. So in this particular set of fabric, I've pulled together a few colors close to each other to make this third Ohio star block. I've pulled together another analogous color set here with this purple, pink, and deeper magenta color. So far we've gone over these complementary Ohio star blocks here with a couple complementary color pairings, and we've gone over our analogous schemes. Now, because we didn't have an even distribution of colors, it's actually kind of hard to pull triadic colors together in this color scheme. So the closest that I got to in this fifth Ohio star block was mixing this orange, this bright pink, and just a lighter aqua background. So these all play off each other nicely. They're giving a lot of contrast and let us visualize these geometric shapes in our Ohio star. Finally, in this last block, you can see how there's a lot of colors, and I went scrappy on that. And that kind of pulls together all these reds and yellows and a mix of colors here in my wheel. We can take a look at the quilt behind me. And from the bottom, you see that there's not a lot of hue. There's very light value and low saturation colors. And then we move up throughout the quilt, and we're going through the entire color wheel there. And this quilt shows 365 colors. And one thing that's nice about this is that it kind of shows how each of these colors interact with that navy background. So color theory is great, but I like to say that it's a guideline for you to start. I definitely recommend, once you've figured out what colors you'd like to work with, just experiment. Work with your scraps, try different combinations. In this case, I really like the purple-yellow combination. I don't usually go for purple, but I do like how bright this is together. I really like this green analogous color harmony block as well. And you'll also want to think about what colors to use in your background space. Like in the quilt behind me, I used a navy, but white and black are great options in your background for your quilts. In that negative space, you get a lot of options for quilting. You can either add in color to complement that. So I would like you to get out your scraps and your color wheel and get inspired to work with color.